Welcome to Life and Business, a podcast where we talk about life, business, money, and how these elements are intertwined in the everyday life. My name is Rosa Camero, your host. Plus, I am an entrepreneur, a mother, a wife, an immigrant, business mentor, and CEO and founder of Rosa Films and Marketing. Welcome. Welcome to Life and Business. This is a podcast where we talk about stories, money, life, and business. And today we have an amazing guest in this podcast. And I have the honor to have worked with her and took her course. And Lena is an expert in investment. So we don't see a lot of those in this world. I think there's a really small amount of women teaching actually investing, money and saving and all these topics that hopefully we have enough time to talk about them.
Hi, Rosa. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm quite honored to be here, and I'm very excited what this conversation will lead to. I'm Lena Perepelova. I'm a founder of Women Investors Club initiative and Fund Finance Virtual Business School for Kids. And I'm very passionate about helping women with their finances. And I'm very convinced that educating kids about today's world, so economy, business, and finance, really will help them in life in all aspects.
Thank you for being here. That was a really condensed description. But it is true. She helps a woman. Actually, she has a Facebook group that we will talk about it later in this conversation. And tell us, this was like the professional Lena, but we would like to know more about how was Lena when she was growing up? Like, did you imagine yourself doing what you're doing now, or did you imagine like doing something else? How was Lena as a child?
Well, Lena as a child was born in communist Soviet Union. So there is no way Lena as a child would imagine that she would be living in Madrid today and being quite capitalist, actually. That's to begin with. I grew up in Soviet Union. I was born in 1975. So the first 10 years was really like a very communist society, the ones you see on the pictures, which is always black and white. And then my youth went through very turbulent times when the Soviet Union broke out, and we had the perestroika and Gorbachev. And so it was very, very interesting period. I learned English very early. I was fortunate that my parents brought me to a specialized school where we learned English very well, which allowed me to be exposed to more things in English language. And then when I started my economics education, I had the chance to go for an exchange to the Netherlands and to live there for a while. And that completely changed me, I think, as a person. And I stayed in that country and I lived there for 10 years. But I never could have imagined that I would live in Spain. And growing up in Soviet Union, I knew nothing about Spain, actually. So it's quite ironic that I'm here now.
I mean, we come from very different continents. Like, I'm from Mexico, you are from the old Russia. It has nothing to do with what it is now. And I would like to share a little bit about that communism that you talk about, because we hear, like, from in the other side, in America, we don't know about that kind of living situation. So it's like we heard like communists, we heard Second World War, we learned it in the school, obviously, but we never went, we never were close to it. So we don't know. Like, actually, I met people who were in the Second World War II when I moved to Europe or when I moved to Poland, because there's not a lot of those like living stories in America and in Mexico. So how, like for you as a child living in that, I know a little bit about it because I lived in Poland. So I live in Bydgoszcz, and they told me that they used to have like these little papers where they needed to go to the store. So one time the family I was living with, it was really funny because they told me they were preparing a christening for one of the childs. And then there were one of the children, and then they were saving these papers for the meat, because you have like a certain amount of meat, and then they were saving these papers to have enough meat for the christening. And then they have the papers, and then one of the children, they ate them. So he ate it. He ate these little papers, and then they didn't have the meat, so they lost the meat. So that was like a funny story that is just, for me it was funny, but it was like weird, like why do you need to have papers to. So for you, like what kind of a story you can tell us about living in your childhood in this, like what do you remember? Or
well, to be honest, I have only very good memories about my childhood. No, so that's contrary for the picture we have now of the black and white Soviet Union. As a child, I think you experienced different because you just that's your life. No, you don't have much to compare. And I have very happy memories of my childhood. It was all very simple. The black and white TV with the cartoons and playing with kids on the street. I lived in Moscow, which is a very big city, but it was still very safe. I remember from being 6 years old, being on the street by myself. And today, I think it would be unimaginable in many, many places now in the world. And the funny stories, I would have to think about it. Nothing really comes to mind at this moment.
So I always like to talk about money. I like to talk about money, and you've been in my events for my company, Rosa Camero. We have invited you to talk about money because I think this is it's a topic that we need to talk more. That we need to be more open about it. It's a taboo. Like we grow up with all these blogs and programs, and in the end, we don't dare to talk about it. And then we probably that's one of the reasons that we don't accumulate wealth, because we have all these programs that money is bad. You shouldn't have like a lot of money. So I want to know from your perspective, what is your relationship with money?
I think my relationship with money has been changing through all my life. And I reflect a lot about it. And there is definitely this feeling of which I had to reflect on and maybe even worked on. But obviously, growing up in the Soviet Union, money was something actually bad, I would say, no? And it was not, you were not supposed to be, well, nobody was rich to begin with, but it was bad taste to talk about money. It was bad taste to work in trade, for example. So my grandmother would, she was, when I started my first job, and it was in the Netherlands, and I was working for a beer producer, I didn't dare to tell it to her, no? Because I knew for her it would be her granddaughter working with beer, how bad and how cheap, and that was impossible. No, so she couldn't. She would never understand why I would work for a company and be an expert in commerce, and so I think that came from that culture. So that definitely influenced my relationship with money. Then going through hyperinflation. No, because I don't know if you went through hyperinflation in Mexico, but in Russia we did. So it's when money loses value from one day to another. But in so that the money you have, for example, all the savings my grandparents had, in less than a year, they disappeared. No, they had the savings to buy a car, and they wouldn't be able to buy a sneaker bar. No, the Mars bar, Mars chocolate bar. That was the value of their savings, which was worth of a car a year ago.
Is it the same as the valuation?
Yeah, it's a devaluation. Yeah.
Mexico.
Yeah, so
we have had like many.
Exactly. So I guess that that influences your relationship with money. I'm very conservative. No, I'm always thinking of worst thing which could happen. I always have to have a certain, let's say, savings as an emergency fund, and it has to be somehow tangible, and I have to feel it. And so, yeah, so that's what you are. When in some things, I would say you cannot really change it. Some things you can reflect, and you can maybe change it with the time. But it's a process, and I think it's process everyone should go through. And the more we reflect on our relationship with about money, and also the more we talk about it with different people from different cultures and different perspectives, I think we can change it and grow in that aspect.
It's super interesting what you're saying, because you're saying that you're conservative with money, but then you are investing, you are finding the solution, or not, but not the solution, but the stock, the bond, that kind of the exchange of money, so you can make more. So that's really interesting. It's an interesting match, because it's like conservative but doing investment, and being an entrepreneur, because also like entrepreneur doesn't have anything about being conservative or being stable, right? Because of course you come into when you start, you don't know what's going to happen. Then you start growing, and you start getting to know your market and getting to know your customers. And then, okay, I'm stable now. And then I know from here I can do more things. So tell me how help you like to be conservative, but also you are a freelance, you are an entrepreneur, and how being conservative has helped you to grow your business.
I think, I guess you mentioned a few points there. So investment is associated with risk, no? And everything, entrepreneurship, también is associated with the risk. I think some risks, if we understand in details what we are doing, if we have certain education, if we break this risk into part, we can somehow manage it. Or at least if once we broke it into small pieces, we understand what is the worst thing can happen, what is the least thing that can happen. That's what I do a little bit to manage my relationship with the risks. So I think we always have this fear of unknown, but then if you just start breaking it up and maybe chewing little by little and say, okay, but what is here? What can I risk? What is the worst thing can happen? What is the least can happen? What is the upside? So, and that's how you kind of manage your risk. And I think being an entrepreneur, that's also what I try to do, is to say, okay, this is what I have. What is the best thing which can happen? No, I always try also to start with the best thing. No, because you start doing with the worst thing, then you go really, it always goes downhill. No, but what is the best thing? What can happen? Okay, and so how I can go there? So, and what could go wrong? What can I do to protect myself from this? And little by little, you progress.
And so tell us more about your business. You have two, so it's like the children's. You give classes to children to get to know more about the finance and and numbers and savings from an early age. And then also you are helping women to actually understand the investment world and how they can put their money to work. So how do you divide your time in these two tasks that you do?
There is another very important task in my life, which is being a mother and being a wife. And I do say that this is still a very important part of my life. And I try to give this part of my life also important time and dedication. So whenever I think about my businesses, and I have two, you're right now, and they're two quite different businesses, I always put these whole three things next to it. And I try to split my time in a way that my family also will have the attention. Because when I started, especially when I started with my first business, it overwhelms you. There is so much to do, and you think about it all the time. But I think it's important for me, and it makes me feel bad if I don't give enough attention to my children or my family. So now, after doing it for more than 5 years, I always put these three things together. I put my family and children first, and their time is totally blocked. So it cannot be touched. And then the rest of the time, I try to divide between the two businesses, and I look at what is the most important, which has to be done this month and then this week, and divide it into the time blocks. And that's the only way I can manage.
That's super interesting what you're saying. I'm a mom as well. So that's one of the reasons I started. Well, I didn't start my business because I was a mom. I started my business before that. But it has helped me to actually divide my time between, okay, this is family and this is my business. So for example, I have a really limited time between 9 and 4 in the afternoon, because then I have to pick up my daughter and we have dinner. Like, I live in Denmark, we have dinner in the evening, and then the life balance here is like really, really important. So people stop working at 4 at the latest. So it's like, that's the time that I have, and that's the time that I work, and that's the time I have to have calls and clients and things that I need to do for my business. And then there's like the other time, it's like having family time and having time with my daughter. And anyway, they don't let you work. It's not that even if you want to, it's like you have two children, you have one children. It's like they don't care. It's like, I want my mommy. It doesn't matter if you have like tons of things to do. Like, I want my time, and I want you with me. It's like they're really like, they're worse than a boss, I think. You have helped me. We can talk about it later, but how can you help women to own like their money, to like so tell us, what is the process that you do with this woman when they come to you and they need help?
Well, I have a signature program which is called Investment Accelerator, and this program works pretty much for any woman who comes to me. Even I also work one-on-one with the personal help, let's say. But the program Investment Accelerator is a good beginning for everyone, because you create, first of all, they understand much more. Money and pension planning and financial planning is in a whole perspective, and as a part of their life. And that's actually what everyone reflects on and thanks me, because most women say, we never thought about it, we didn't have time to think about it, and we didn't have time to put money in our financial planning long-term into a priority, because we're so busy, and this is something for so much later that you go with your life and you forget about it. So that program it creates, I think, lots of awareness. It puts money into focus, and also you get lots of practical knowledge of what you could do with your money, whether you have a huge wealth or you have normal salary. It puts you into perspective. And then there are very practical steps everyone can follow. And if there are more concrete situations, we can then do it one-on-one. And then, of course, there is the Facebook community, which is quite big now. And there women can just ask their questions to other women, get motivation from other women. So there is lots of open discussion. And I think that's very, very important, because we need to see role models. We need to see that other women are doing it, and it's very important motivation for everyone. And then little by little, everyone can do something for themselves. And we have talks. I love meeting women. So we have talks for active investors. We have talks for beginning investors. So we meet in person on Zoom. And we always have really interesting discussions.
How many members are in your Facebook group now?
It's 1,300, 400, something like this.
So yeah, it's a community where you can actually talk money and ask questions. I remember when I took the course, I didn't know anything. Like, I knew I wanted to learn. I knew I wanted to put my money to work, but it's so complicated. Like, there's not information out there that actually can help you to start. It's not even easy to find gurus. I mean, because you don't know. I mean, it's not like, this like other industries that you might be related to someone and then you start learning. So in the investment world, it's like a taboo. It's like they talk about it, but they don't, like, you don't know where to look or how, because there's so many concepts and words and phrases that you don't, like, I didn't understand. And it was easy for me to start the program. And now I'm a proud investor and buying my own stocks and like talking talking apps and talking investment and talking return on investment. And it's like, wow, I have come really far in 1 year. It's been a little bit more than a year that I took your course. I want to focus in the conversation in the money, in the, like, if they start investing, I mean, you don't have to, and I know that, because you don't have to start investing with thousands of euros or coronas or pesos or whatever, or dollars. But how much can people start investing?
Well, first of all, why invest? No, so there are. I think there is this view that investing is to multiply your wealth, and it is theoretically possible, but investment is necessary for everyone, because any savings we have, if we don't invest them, then with the time, these savings are being destroyed by inflation. So that's, I think, everyone has to think about that. Investing is really necessary. So the saving without investing is kind of useless in a long term, because you save your money, but little by little, this money loses value. So you have to invest. Our wealth cannot just be on the bank account, because it loses its value. And there are different types of investments. There is investment in real estate. There is investment on the stock market. It's not so complicated, but I agree that it's difficult to start. And you start with just having conversation with other women.
I think it's really important. So there are actually communities out there where you can find information, where you can ask, where you can, like, thank God Facebook that it has all these like really specialized communities where you can join the groups and you can start asking. Don't be afraid of. It's nothing. I think it's worse not to ask than actually make the question, even though you can feel that you're stupid. Like, you're not stupid. There's no stupid questions. And two things I wanted to highlight from what you said. Like, for example, in Denmark, they have put a law where you cannot have more than 100,000 coronas. That's around 12,000 euros in the bank. You need to invest. Because
really,
yes, actually that was this year. So they applied this rule this year. Well, what someone explained me is because the money needs to be moved. The money just saved in the bank is just makes it difficult for a bank. So that creates fees and that creates expenses for them. So they need to move the money. So it was like you cannot have more than 100,000 coronas in your bank. So you need to figure out what to do with it, right? Like, actually saying you need to invest it. A lot of people started investing actually last year in Denmark, and especially young people. It was really fun. It was funny to see because they couldn't go out. They had the money. So they started investing and they started buying things, and so that was a really interesting fact that what happens here and what happened here in Denmark. And this is a question for you, because it's different when you work for a company and the company actually, like someone else is doing, like you have the pension scheme, you have like, you don't have to do kind of anything to have like this sorted out. Of course, you need to inform yourself, and you need to, but sometimes the company is already doing the cut for the pension, doing the cut for whatever other things, taxes that you need to pay. As a self-employed, as a business owner, you don't have that. You have to do all your math and you have to do all your numbers. So how do you advise for those people out there who are listening to us to actually put together numbers and to have like, how long? I know it's really difficult, and each case is really specific, but like for example, pension, like how much, like the percentage of the pension of the income they need to put on the aside for that.
Yes, that's a very important question and very valid observation, because as self-employed, it's our responsibility to think about our pension provisions. I think lots of us self-employed, we are so keen on putting all our money back into the business now and to grow the business that we forget about it. I would say that ideally, we want to put 20% of our earnings and invest it long-term. And it's quite in a high amount, actually, because 20% is quite a lot. But if we invest 20% for 30 years, in 30 years, this 20% is actually would be theoretically worth our today's salary.
Okay, as a business owner, you have your salary and you have the business income. It will be 20% from the business income?
From your salary. From your salary. So if you put 20% of your salary invested for 30 years, then after 30 years, it would be actually worth your regular salary.
Okay.
So when you're retired, you would have the same salary you have today.
Okay. So this will be another 30 years or another
30 years. 30 years.
Okay. That's really interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
So if today I'm 30, I put 20% of my salary. Then when I'm 60, it would be the whole salary. So I don't have to work. I have the savings, which are worth my salary.
I think that's clear. So if you save 20% of your money now from the salary that you get, then that means in 30 years, you will have more or less the savings. But this means also put the money to work. Like as you said,
it has to be invested. It's calculated with this money be invested at 5%.
At 5%, yes. I think that's really important. It's like what you said earlier. If you save and you have it on the bank, it will lose their value. So actually, you're not saving the amount of money that you think you're saving. Is like it's going to be less in 30 years. So it needs to be invested in order for that money to grow and to have the same money that we have now.
Well, actually, I have another number. So if you don't invest, then your savings are only worth half in 30 years.
Oh my, can you imagine? Yeah. So people, if you are listening to this is the time to start investing, put your money to work and actually like save, because yes, in Europe, that's also something cultural. That's something completely cultural. That in Europe, people they are used to save money. They're used to put money into the side. Latin America, they don't do that. Latin America, they live by the day. In Mexico, they pay every 15 days. It's not every month. So when I moved from Mexico to Spain and they pay every month, it was like, what's going on? Why they're paying every month? It's supposed to be every 15 days. Because Mexicans, we live by the day. Like we are like, it's like 2 weeks are coming. It's great. Like payment is coming. But that makes us lazy to actually save money and to be careful with money. So yeah, what do you think about it? Like, because it's a cultural thing. It's different.
Interesting. I didn't know that. But it makes sense. But I guess then it's more difficult for this culture to save, no? And we have to come up with how to help them.
Yeah. So if now that you know that they get paid every 15 days, and they're paid probably a lot less than an European salary. How would you advise them to start investing or start saving 20%? Or maybe they can start with a little less and then get used to it. And then they save a little, and then they maybe in 3 months they save a little bit more. How would you think it would be the best? Not the best, not the ideal or not the best, but what would you think you can advise them to actually start saving?
I think it depends a little bit on the age. I think people who are young, they can maybe start with saving 10% because there is still lots of time for them to save from one side. If we are approaching our 40s and we don't have any savings, then we really have to pick up the rate, the rate of savings, because we are already closer to our retirement. From everything what I hear from many women, saving 10% is not difficult at all if you put this savings into automatic way, that the money automatically goes out of your account as soon as it hits the, let's say, as soon as your salary hits the bank, 10% goes away. Nobody really actually notices it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I have tried to do that. This is me. Probably that's me and my way of doing things. But for me, it doesn't work. I don't know. I can save, and I'm really good at saving. But I don't know why I do it in the end. So I try to do it I have tried to do it in the beginning, and it hasn't worked. Then I do it in the end of the month. So it's something probably it's something to do with me being Mexican and growing up in an environment that we live probably day by month after month, just the salary, and then we have it, and then so it's what if I don't have enough money for the month? So I still have that trigger or that program that I can I could feel maybe I will need that money. So it's better if I put it in the end. So I have it there. And anyway, I always made it. I always have enough, and I always save, and I always save more.
Okay.
But it's just funny, these programs that you have in your head, tricking you and doing things in a different way. So I guess if you're there and you feel if I put the money in the beginning, then I don't know. So maybe you can try in the end, but commit.
Exactly.
You need to commit to save, saving money every month. It doesn't matter if it's in the beginning or in the end, but it's this money has to be out of my bank account, or wherever you were putting the money. Don't put it on your cushion or in your closet. You can download an app or something, and then you pass that money. You can take that money into the other bank account.
And I think it's also very important to measure the results. No, so every quarter you actually check, and if you've done what you decided. No, so if you decided to save 10%, then you really have to have a moment to have a look and see whether it really happened.
This is my last question. They already have we had a long conversation about money and investing. So where we can find you, Lena, and how can people connect with you if they are interested in what you're saying and they want to know more?
You can find me on Facebook. My community is Investing is for Women. So this is very easy. That's a big group. And you can look at my website, which is womeninvestorsclub.com. And so you can connect with me on LinkedIn with my name, Lena Perepelova.
Well, that sounds great and really easy to connect. In these days, it's easy to connect with people around the world. It doesn't matter where you are based. It's just amazing how technology works, and to learn from other people, even if they are in the other side of the world.
Yes, we live in very fortunate times, I think. And we have people like you to teach us how to connect with people.
Please join Lena Facebook group and her program. That actually it's really good. So thank you, Lena, for being here. I don't know if you want to say something else. You want to add something else to what we have talked.
I just want to send a message to all women over there who are listening to this podcast that we should not be afraid of talking about money, and we shouldn't be afraid of thinking about our finances. And one thing which I hear a lot from women saying, I'm bad at finances, please don't ever say it. Because we are all actually very, very good about it. We are perfectionists. So we really like to kind of diminish our, let's say, and say that we're not so good. We are good. We, as a heads of household, because we manage money all the time. We are fantastic with finance. We are fantastic with everything. So don't be modest, be confident about it.
And you learn. It's a skill that you learn with time. I was part of that woman that said, I'm really bad with numbers. Now that I have my business, it's like I have to be on top of it. It's not only for me. And recently, I think since I took your program, I started doing it for myself, because I was like really on top of my numbers with my business. And I knew like the revenue, and I knew like how much we needed to earn. But then I didn't know how much I was making. And I was like, yeah, we kind of like put ourselves apart. It's like we do all this, and then we are in the end sometimes as a woman. So it's like, yes, I agree with Lena, like learn the numbers, make it easy.
It just has to work for you, and that's it.
Exactly. So thank you so much, Lena, for your time, for being here, and for being in this podcast. It's Life and Business.
Thank you for inviting me, Rosa. It was a pleasure.
You have a powerful story that deserves to be told. Your brand is worthy to stand out. We can help you find that balance between creativity and business. At Rosa Camero Films and Marketing, we are experts creating and promoting stories and communities through branding, digital marketing, and strategy. Reach out to us. Let's have a virtual coffee.